latest top tips, reviews and advice, please subscribe below.
Hello and welcome to Attwoolls Outdoors with me, Mike. Telling you guys a bit of a review video on a new product from Quest. So with me today I've got the Quest Falcon Air Windbreak. So it's quite a nice new concept, something that we've seen elsewhere in the market, but Quest is kind of an own version of it. So it's a little bit different in a way, and essentially it comes as a hub in kind of three main panels. One thing I do like about it is the fact that, actually, to be fair, unlike most windbreaks, it does come included with its own pump. A lot of time you're relying on the having an inflatable awning or inflatable tent or something to actually use it, but this is designed for people who haven't got any of that and starting from fresh. Now, it's 3 panels in total, so what I'm going to initially do is kind of spread the panels open. Each panel is about 160 wide and a height of about 140. The thing that makes this a little bit different is the fact that, actually, to be fair, each panel zips together rather than actually kind of like uses like a beading or anything like that. So a zip kind of thing is a definitely much more thorough way of doing it. Each one's done individually, so you can have it in any kind of shape or size that you want it to. So what I'm doing initially now is kind of just putting the valve in place, so screwing it in. It's a kind of what we call like a Boston valve system. So you've got a front cap, and then you just kind of screw the valve in initially yourself. On this, actually, interestingly enough, every single panel has 2 valves each. So from getting the air in, and more importantly getting the air out, you really shouldn't be struggling, you know. You watch. The pump they supply with it is almost kind of quite a nice single action pump. It's quite well made as well, and what you find, it tends to come with a pressure gauge on top. The pressure gauge isn't like a generic pressure gauge you'd find. It's almost like a pressure release valve. So when you get to the recommended pressure, which is 7 psi, it will give you a little puff of air and stop you kind of overinflating it. So that's quite a nice little thing. Although each panel itself also has a zip located around the outside of it. This is it to enable you to, if need be, repair or replace the tube. So what I'm going to do is start somewhere in the middle and just give it a pump up. You can, of course, use an electric pump if you really wanted to. Admittedly, I would probably sit back, relax, and watch it go up, but there's not really that much air required to go into it, to be fair. And then we're on to the next one. Oops, daisy. So you probably can't quite hear it on my microphone, but there's a little thing on the top which, like I said, set at 10 psi. When it gets to the right pressure, you'll just kind of let itself out a little bit. I've had an absolute mare there. I've tangled that in the old guide point. So let's take that out. Out you come. Back in you go. Quite nicely, actually, all the valves have their own kind of little bit of retainer on it. It's to stop you losing any of the components on the actual Boston valve itself. So after you almost inflate every single one, what you want to do is put the cap on the front bit. Just really, it's a double seal against kind of stopping the air coming out. So once we're at this point here, these are fully inflated. We can then kind of position it as we want to. So lifting this up, because you can alternate it, it almost freestands in the right kind of location. So you can pick any kind of shape you want to, whether it be dead straight, curved. Generally you find there's curved kind of points give you a bit more structure. So what I do now is just kind of peg around the base of it, just to kind of get the base sorted they're nice and square. And then from there we can kind of guy it out. Now you've got the ability to add additional panels onto it if you wanted to. So the joys is, because it's all zipped together, you can almost have it as 4 or 5 or so panels long. Each panel comes initially by a set of 3, and then from there on you get them individually. But if you want to buy a set of 3 and another set of 3, yeah, you can by all means do that. So I mean, the air structure is going to give it a bit more strength. This kind of main kind of keep it in place is done by the guy points. So what we can do is just peg this directly down. But it certainly is a lot less faff than trying to feed poles. Hold it as you peg it. And from a connection point of view, it's a lot more solid. So if you want to keep the dogs out, that for certain is a nice way of doing it. And so from a deflate function, which we've kind of got a separate video on, you can always check out that as well, on how that works. A nice sort of window panel built into it. It uses basically 150 sort of basically D fabric, so it's a nice strong fabric, sort of 4,000 mil high state heads. It's designed to kind of match the Falcon range of awnings. Come on, get it in. But you know, in all intents and purposes, you can use it in its own right. You haven't got to necessarily buy the awning range to make it completely work. There's also essentially one bit of beading included with it. So as I've done there, it's kind of blocking against the wind. It's not going backwards. It's not got as much strength going back in. So what it might be worth doing is actually internally pegging it a little bit, just to give it a little bit more support. Now these I'd probably do 2 guide points to a peg, just to give a bit more strength. And you can almost go directly down with it. Again, just to really kind of make sure it's got some sort of secureness to it. And that way you've got, and it's pretty rock solid, to be fair. Like I said, there's a beading on the side here as well. The joys of this actually is you can connect it directly into the caravan rail and then create that enclosure as you want to. And then, to be fair, you almost want to use one panel as a door. So you can always unzip it, open up if you leave it kind of partially pegged, and create that kind of enclosure right around the caravan as you see. So now comes to the next important thing of taking it down. Same sort of process we've just done, almost just in reverse, to be fair. If anything, this is sort of the easier bit because we can just kind of unscrew bits as we go. So we'll start by taking the internal guide lines down. Now you either go down lines of actually kind of deflating it and unpegging it, or unpeg and deflate. Doesn't really make a difference. I'm going to probably go down the deflate and unpeg a line. And because you've got 2 valves either end of each panel, I would do probably both, just because it's going to help when we come to roll it up. Just make sure the air is going to always escape out. So you can see actually how well that kind of holds on that windbreak even when it's deflated. Just the sheer fabric, and then also the pegging points, keeping it all nice and robust. There it goes. So once we kind of let the air out, we're just going to go around the base, unpeg it open. If you want to be, really anal, you can obviously kind of roll up the guide lines and just kind of get those all neat and tidy. I'm just going to do the old quick job just because I can't be bothered, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. But you know, there's not that overly that many to be tangled with, and they're all kind of going in the same direction, so it's not the end of the world. So now at this stage, what I'm going to do is kind of almost lay one panel on top of the other. So we'll let it out, flip that over the top, and again do the same this side. Now because the valves are located almost either side, we lay them directly on top. I'm just going to quickly start kind of at the top and tail of it and just kind of press down and move around the windbreak. Where is it? There it is. Oh, there you go. Just to kind of get any excess air out that valve. You always find a bit in there, no matter what. There's just anything that's going to help it open. So now we're in this state here, it's a good idea to get kind of the bag, just to get your width. Really, we just want to fold it in half. So we'll go directly over the top. I'll move the frisbee out of the way. So at the top we go, fold it directly in half. What I like to do at this point is then always get the bag. You either go roll it directly into the bag, or if you wanted to, put a tie just underneath it, just that way when you roll it up, you're kind of directly in position as you need to be. And then we're going to fold and roll across. One side is going to be a bit thicker, of course, because you've got the tubes all on one side, but because the valves are either side, it makes an absolute dream to pack away. And actually what you've got is a really nice small pack size. Tie it up, and you can lob it in a bag. And do it up. Simple as that. Bob's your uncle, Bob's your uncle, funny's your aunt. So yeah, that's kind of how you'd go about packing away the Falcon Air Windbreak. For more information, check the link below this video. It'll take you through to kind of all of the details we've got on it, as well as the pitching videos, specifications, pack sizes, the overall dimensions as well. But feel free to let us know, and happy camping.